Hey, what's going on guys? It is Needle, and today's video I'll be doing an updated controller settings video for you guys. And before we get too far into the video today, I would like to let you guys know to make sure to subscribe and turn on post notifications if you guys do enjoy controller Fortnite content. I post all sorts of stuff ranging from controller settings just like this to gameplay tips and tricks that'll help you guys get better on controller Fortnite. So make sure to sub and turn on post notifications. But if you guys have been here before and just enjoy the content, feel free to leave a like on the video and comment down below what your favorite trick and tip was in this video that'll help you guys with your settings and your sensitivity. And now to get into the juicy part of what everyone's always wanting. Everyone is always asking for a new updated controller settings video. This always seems to be my most requested and my video that always seems to do the best. So hopefully you guys do enjoy this one here. To give some validation though for these settings and why I think they are so great, keep in mind I have been using these settings since about October of 2017 when Fortnite first started getting popular. So I have been using these for about a year and a half, give or take. So keep in mind these have lasted me a while and I've used them on multiple controllers. If you guys are on PS4 or Xbox, I'm wondering if they do apply to you. I have used it on Xbox, the console. I've used it on the PS4, the console. I've used controllers on PC. I've used Xbox controllers on PC, Xbox One Elite controllers. And these settings, every time I put them in, they seem to help me do so well. And I think where they're actually the best, like as far as gameplay goes, I think these settings are going to be the best for hitting a lot of your AR shots and hitting a lot of shotgun shots up close with the combat and the pump specifically. So let's get right into the settings here. And now to get into the juicy stuff that you guys have all been waiting for, we're going to start out with the controller sensitivity X and the controller sensitivity Y. And I'll just round it up here just to make it easy. Let's say my X sensitivity is going to be 7, and then I usually run about 0.675 as my controller sensitivity Y. I'll explain that a little bit in a bit why they are different, but these are my bread and butter. These are the two most important things that are going to affect your gameplay is going to be your X and your Y sensitivity. Now a lot of people may be asking why I don't have it up a little bit more or why I don't have it down a little bit more to hit some shots. Keep in mind, like I said, this is just for me over the past year and a half of trying all sorts of different sensitivities around this 7 range. I'm going to refer to it as a range of 7 sensitivity. I've just felt that this is the most comfortable for me to hit shots and move. You get the 7, so you get pretty good movement. You can build pretty fast. I'll get into building sensitivity and edit sensitivity in a little bit and how that affects it. But as far as just looking around and getting shots off, this sensitivity feels very, very comfortable. It's not too fast, not too slow. That's why I think it's so great for just balancing out your AR shots and your shotgun shots. Now you may be wondering though why I do have my Y a little bit lower. The way Fortnite works is it displays in 1920 pixels by 1080 pixels, meaning that you have to move a little bit more across the X than you do the Y. Since it's 1080 for the Y, it's a little bit less, so I do run my Y sensitivity a little bit lower because you don't need it as high. It's going to be a little more sensitive, so feel free just to drop your Y a little bit lower, but overall it's not going to make too big of a difference. Keep in mind though, like I've said, I've been using these for about a year and a half now, so it's not going to be something you can just throw on and feel completely comfortable with right away. So my just rule of thumb here, and I think the biggest tip you can take away from this is when you're trying to work with a new sensitivity or try these settings out, you're going to want to give it a little bit of time. I would say at least 3 to 4 days of using the settings without changing them, and then making your decision if you want to raise it up a little bit or raise it down. But if you guys are new to my channel and just want more general tips on sensitivity and finding the perfect sensitivity, I just released a video on that last week. And as well as like aiming and stuff goes, if you guys just want other tips, I'll have my aiming playlist down in the description below, so go check that out because it'll help more of how to use the sensitivity to benefit you to get more kills in Fortnite. Now that we've covered the standard X and the Y sensitivity, that's just going to be looking around and getting your shots off. I want to cover what I have as my controller targeting sensitivity and my controller scope sensitivity. So I have my targeting sensitivity at about 0.36 and then my scope at about 0.42. Now the reason I have my targeting sensitivity around this 0.35, 0.36 range, I figure this is the most comfortable for me when it comes to actually aiming in targets and jumping from target to target. Now if you actually watch my gameplay here and kind of pay attention to how I aim specifically with my assault rifles, I don't really move my aiming around a lot. What I do instead is kind of like I'll aim in and then I'll move more with my left stick than I do my right stick. That's one of my biggest tips for aim that I'll always tell people. Your best way to hit shots is to line up your body before and then aim in and let the aim assist take over afterwards. You can't spam L2. You can't really abuse aim assist anymore. Just being in season 9 of Fortnite, that's all been patched and that's way in the past. So you got to rethink about aiming if that's kind of how you think about it, of spamming L2. It's more about lining up your shots, using aim assist to correct onto their body and get shots off, and then aiming out and then kind of reassessing yourself with your X and your Y sensitivity. That's what works for me, at least with the scope sensitivity. I don't try to jump around too much, so it's not too slow, it's not too sluggish. And then obviously for the controller scope, I have it up a little bit more at 0.42. This is just to be able a little bit quicker with my snipes in specific, just to hit those quick snipes, kind of flick around and kind of catch people off guard. So that is my thought process behind my 0.36 controller targeting and my 0.42 controller scope sensitivity. Now, after that, we are on to controller building sensitivity. And this is something that if you guys have seen my videos in the past, you guys know I'm always preaching you want to run the max building sensitivity, just because building is so important. My theory was kind of like, hey, if building is so important, it's the most important aspect in Fortnite, it can't really hurt to have it as high as possible. Well, I've kind of changed my thinking a little bit. I just want to be the most comfortable. At times, having the 2 building sensitivity with the 7X felt like a little bit too much, a little too fast for me, so I've dialed it down a bit to 1.8. So something to keep in mind there, that I'm not rocking the max anymore, but this is all going to be preference for you, how you like to build. If you're more of a creative player, if you're more of like a scrims, or maybe even just a pub stomper, depending on how you play is what's really going to determine your controller building. I think 1.8 is a really nice range where I can do the creative, really crazy high ground retakes and whatever I need to take high ground, and overall just get to height. That's all building's about, so being quick in that aspect, 1.8 allows me to do that. Next up, we have the controller edit mode sensitivity. I kind of have it bunched in here. Currently have it at 1.935, which might be the highest I've ever had it. Another kind of same thought process. I've kind of reworked this over the past couple months since I haven't made these videos. For whatever reason, my edits seem to have been feeling a little sluggish, so I've raised it up a ton, and I figured 1.935, it actually helps a ton with my wall edits as well as my ramp edits. I throw them around pretty fast. What I feel comfortable with is 1.935 right now, but if you guys have seen my past controller settings, you guys will know that I kind of always kind of preach a little bit of a lower edit mode sensitivity, so that works as well. I think with edit mode, you can go down to 1.5 and be okay, and the same thing with controller build sensitivity. As long as you have it over that 1.4 to 1.5 range, you should be good. Just don't make sure you're building with whatever your regular X and Y is. Don't have a 1 multiplier for your controller building sensitivity. So that's all for the actual sensitivity parts of the video. So now I'll be breaking down some key settings in the actual game settings that you guys need to have on and off to have the best Fortnite experience. Now, I'm not going to pop up all of these settings like I did for the sensitivities on the screen. I'll just go down the list here of the main game control options and explain what I have on and off and what you guys need to be using. So, first one that I have on and that I think is notable is going to be sprint by default. It'll come more into play when I talk about my binds in a minute or two, but you need to have sprint by default now here in Fortnite Season 9. I think it's a must just due to the fact that you need that left stick. You don't need a button on there. It'd be better to use your edit or something else on that. We'll talk about it in a bit, but you need to have sprint by default on now in Fortnite. Next up, I'd say the most important thing, tap to search and interact. This is just a really easy one. When you go to pick up a chest, instead of holding down square or whatever it is on your controller, I just tap it real quick and it's really easy. It comes in handy the most when you're reviving people. Instead of holding it down and thinking you're going to fat finger it 10 seconds into the revive, you just hit it once and it goes for you. Other than that, some other things here, maybe hold to swap pickup. That's a newer thing they add in. I personally don't have that on, but that's just going to be preference, how fast you want to pick up items. Reset building choice, that's something you don't need to worry about anymore in Fortnite unless you still play in standard. Some other things though, going through here, aim assist, always want to have aim assist on controller. Next one, edit mode aim assist, that is something I turn off. It just makes my edits feel a little like clunky, it just makes them feel a little weird. It feels like they're trying to like finish my edits for me. I don't like edit mode aim assist. Turbo build, that's something you definitely need to have on. That is a complete must on controller. Auto open doors, I have that off. I don't really like that. Same thing with auto pick up weapons. It just kind of feels unnatural when I'm like trying to loot stuff and it's just doing it for me. Another big one here is auto sort consumables to the right. What this does is any sort of consumable basically heals, bandages, minis, slurp juice. Whenever you pick it up, it'll just put it towards the end of your inventory. That way it's a little bit easier to actually organize your guns in your inventory. That's a pretty useful one that you guys need to have on if you don't. Other than that though, Builder Pro, build immediately. As a controller player, another thing like turbo build, you completely need that on. Other than that though, the controller edit hold time is the last one here. If you guys are playing on standard, if you guys don't play on Builder Pro, highly going to suggest using the controller edit hold time at the lowest you can. That way your edits are pretty smooth and they're not going to hold you back too much. Alright, next thing we have up here are going to be my actual binds on my controller, and I'm only going to cover the main crucial ones here. What I'm going to suggest instead is I actually have a controller binds video. I explained more of what you should be doing if you're claw or you're not claw. In this one, I'll kind of be explaining what I use. So keep in mind, I use a PS4 controller, as you guys see on the screen, and I do play claw. So some of the notable binds that I have changed here is I edit with triangle. I already have my right finger, my right index finger, kind of just chilling on my triangle at all times, so editing's pretty easy. Same thing with my toggle pickaxe on my left stick. That's pretty natural. I'm always controlling that. Another thing here to note though, one of the bigger ones, is I have my crouch bind is just straight crouch compared to crouch / repair. This is something that you guys need to go change. I've made multiple videos on it. If you guys don't have it already, change your crouch to regular crouch. For whatever reason, you can just crouch peek faster when you do it like this, and you can kind of bam, crouch a little bit. Your ghost peaks are just a lot better when you have the regular crouch bind instead of crouch / repair. Other than that though, I would say the only other thing you really need to check with the binds, the next important thing with the binds is going to be confirming your edits. So what I actually do is pretty weird. I select my edits with R2, which is going to be standard. I confirm with L2, and then I reset with R1. This basically creates the effect of an instant reset, just because it's so easy to roll over your fingers to go R1 to L2 for me. Some people may even want to reset with L1, so you can kind of roll your fingers across L1 and L2, if that makes sense. That's just how I personally like to do it. So for my edit binds, keep in mind I'm going to be selecting with my right trigger, I reset with R1, and I confirm with L2. I like to think about it like just kind of like Builder Pro. You know, you build with Builder Pro and all your fingers are on the triggers and the stops up here, the bumpers. It kind of works like that. It's really easy to roll your fingers. In this way, you can edit pretty fast and confirm your edits pretty fast. The only other setting I really want to cover, I actually did make a video on this recently, is your dead zone settings. I don't want to include this too much just because I made separate videos on this. You guys can go check those out, but the dead zone is pretty easy to think about. It's basically just your thumbstick sensitivity. That's the easiest way to explain it. So the lower you have your dead zone on your thumbstick, the easier it is going to be to move your thumbstick, and then the higher you have it, the more sluggish it'll be, a little bit harder. The more pressure you have to apply to the thumbstick, the higher the dead zone is. So that's a good way to think about it, is just how much pressure you actually have to apply to it. So it's basically just changing the sensitivity as far as that goes. I personally recommend running your dead zones the lowest possible on your controller. Everyone's controller is going to be a little bit different, have a little bit more wear and tear on it. If you have a little bit of an older controller, you might have to put it a little bit higher, but what I suggest is having your dead zones as low as your controller can go without getting drift. Drift is just when you have your dead zones a little bit too low, and then whenever you move to the right or the left on your right thumbstick, it'll kind of just drift and do it for you. So if you guys have it too low, you'll see it right away. It'll just start moving on its own, but that's going to wrap it all up for the day. That is going to be all for this one, guys. I hope you guys did enjoy this controller settings video. If you guys are new here, like I said, make sure to sub and turn on post noties. I know you guys always love this video, so make sure to go crazy, show some support. Go check out some other videos in the description below. That's going to be all from me, guys. Comment down below what your favorite tip was, what you're going to try out. I will see you guys later. Peace.